Hi, I'm here today on site at one of my favorite restaurants here in Woodstock with Chef Restaurateur Eric Boyar. I'm Chris Weitzel, owner-operator of Chris Seafood, and today we are going to cook
A nice little lobster tortellini dish with butter poached lobster. We can start getting to it right away and have at it. So
Let's get into it.
So we're going to start first. We're going to start by poaching a little bit of lobster to stuff into the tortellini. So we're going to prep our lobster fully for it. First, we're going to take our beautiful tails from Chris, and we're going to get a knife that we don't really care for that much and cut through the shell all the way. With that, we can pull out the lobster tail itself.
These are a 6 to 7 ounce Atlantic lobster tail.
Pull those out nice and easy like that. Save your shells for later. Go through one side and then the other. If you're doing a whole lobster, you can do this the exact same way. There's a little cross piece at the head of the fish, or head of the lobster, where you can just insert the knife and come all the way back, and then go do the exact same thing I just did there with those shells. The shells we're not going to discard. Those are, you want to try and utilize as much as everything as possible, so you can make a nice sauce, which we're going to do a little bit later, or a bisque, which is great, or in any other awesome applications, a lobster oil, lots of different lobster butter, those kinds of things. So there we go, just like that. We got those all out. What we're going to do to try and keep our tails as straight as possible is we're going to just take a skewer and try and go through the center of all that nice meat there.
It's a beautiful red. I love the red of the raw lobster.
So we're going to set 4 of those aside for our dish for later on, but we're going to take 2 of them for our tortellini filling. And we're going to poach those right away. The other ones we'll save for later. So from there, just set those to the side. I'm going to wash my hands real quick.
So if you don't have Atlantic tails, we sell as well Caribbean tails, which are a little bit lower price point. The shells aren't quite as thick as Atlantic. Caribbean tails, warmer waters, thinner shell, you actually get a little bit more meat. The Atlantic tails, cold water, thicker shell, a little bit less meat, but better flavor. You're not going to find a Caribbean tail on a menu over in Japan. You will for sure find an Atlantic tail on the menu there, though.
So we're just going to take a pound of butter here. Get that in the pot. We're going to take some garlic. We're going to crush that real quick, and then we're going to take some thyme, get that in there as well. And then we'll get that on the stove and just let it start to melt gently, and then we'll get ready for the next stage as that's kind of happening. So we're just going to clean up our workstation here to get on to the next stage. We'll keep that all nice and tight together, and then I'm going to flip this guy here and go on to the next stage. So next stage is we're going to start to put our sauce together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a stock that we've made from other lobster shells, not these today because we don't have the time, and we're going to we've taken that, made the stock, and then we've reduced it down very far, so it's very super concentrated, so you know, really getting lots of flavor. But what we're going to do now is take a little bit of that butter that we need from in here. And we're going to take some garlic and some shallots in there. And we're going to get that on the stove.
Now, Simple terms, what's the difference between shallots and garlic?
Well, garlic is in a bulb variety. They're both from the onion family. Garlic is garlic, but shallots are in the onion family. So they're a little bit of a softer flavor than an onion, but they still have a little bit of that je ne sais quoi, that like garlicky flavor. So we want to just marry it nicely together. So that's gonna flavor the sauce really well and build those complex layers throughout the entire dish.
Nice.
So as this butter's melting and this your garlic and shallots are sweating off, we don't actually want to brown this too much at this point. We just want to cook it nicely.
Smells delicious in here.
As that's kind of cooking nicely, it's almost there. Again, like I said, we don't want any color on it.
You're not browning the garlic.
No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a healthy amount of white wine, get that in there, turn up the heat, let that cook out. Now this will take a couple minutes. What you really want to make sure you do here is you want to cook out that wine. All you want is the flavor and the sweetness from the wine, not the actual alcohol. So essentially cooking down the alcohol and reducing it down is cooking off, burning that alcohol off, concentrating that flavor so you don't have a sauce that is acidic. You want those sweet flavors kind of coming through. So that'll do its thing, and it's going to reduce there for a minute. Our butter's melting over here for our poached lobster, which we'll get in shortly. In the meantime, we do have a little bit of the concentrated lobster stock here that we reduced down earlier, and we have some 35% cream going into it as well. Now, the next step that we're going to add before we add our 35% cream and our reduced stock is we're going to add a little bit of brandy to it. Now, the brandy you want to add to it, you want to make sure what you're doing is you're turning off your flames, turning off the heat, because it is high alcohol content. It is going to flame up on you. So the best way to control that is by turning off the heat, adding your brandy, and then turning the heat back on, and then tilting your pan to the side. If you have your pan on, you risk the brandy catching on fire while you're pouring it in from the bottle, and then you have a whole other problem on your hands. So this, again, you're going to burn off all that alcohol. This is what that's doing now, burning it all off. Again, you're concentrating those flavors down significantly to make sure that you have those delicious, flavors kind of building together and building those layers in there. So you can see already that alcohol is burned off now. It's done. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of thyme and put that in the pan. I'm going to add our reduced lobster stock, a little bit of tomato paste. We're going to kind of mix that in together nicely. Butter's coming along here, so we're going to turn that down just a touch. We don't want the lobster going into it when it's like crazy hot, so we're going to just let it do its thing. So that's all mixed in there nicely. Now we're going to add a healthy amount of 35% cream, and then we're going to reduce that down again.
It just looks beautiful.
So get that all mixed together, let it do its thing, and while we work on everything else, this will reduce, get nice and thick and concentrated, and we just want to have it coat the back of the spoon nicely to have that nice coating consistency. So we can let that do its thing, and we can start working on some other stuff. Next up, we're going to get going on the pasta. So I'm going to grab our bowl. And what we have is our all-purpose flour. It's a hard flour from Oak Manor Farms, just north of Woodstock in Tavistock. And we're going to sift that to make sure we don't have any clumps, to make sure it's nice and finely put together. We do add a little bit of semolina to it as well. And we want to just mix that in until it's combined together. You have to be really careful with cream on the stove behind you, because if you let it come to a boil, it's gonna expand a lot. It's gonna bubble up and gonna boil over. So you want to make sure that once it does come up to temperature, that we're turning it down and letting it do its thing. Our butter is good to go there for our butter poached lobster for the filling. So I'm gonna throw that in there while we're waiting. So this will just take a minute or two. You just want them just cooked. So we're gonna get those guys in there.
Taking a bit of a lobster bath. And a little bit of butter. Not gonna hit the Weight Watchers calendar anytime soon. But hey. Now I do want to add that you can watch Eric and the crew work in here. At the chef's table, you book your table in advance, and you can actually see the guys do their magical dance back here during dinner service, which is, I gotta admit, one of the best ways that I like to come and watch and eat a meal here. And it is pure entertainment, I gotta say that.
So next what we're going to do is we're going to take some eggs, get that kind of sorted out here. So what we have, we're going to use it's predominantly egg-based pasta here. We try not to add too much other stuff to it, make it nice and simple. It's going to be predominantly egg yolk based because we want that rich flavor in it.
Where do the eggs come from?
They come from Gearlings from the farmer's market.
Laverne.
So yeah, so we 639. You'll find us probably every week at the farmer's market, just making those connections, talking to people, picking up product for the week, and seeing what farmers are coming up with that's new, that's different, that's what's in season at the time, and kind of going from there. So it's really great to have as a resource in Oxford, and you know it's been a part of 639 since we opened. So you know for me to miss a Saturday market is pretty rare. So
it's one of the longest standing farmers market in Ontario.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a little well in the bottom of that flour mixture. I'm going to just give a quick start up on this stuff here, but then I'm going to also take a little bit of squidding to make this pasta just a little bit different and a little bit more unique. This is gonna change the color significantly, which will make for a really eye-appealing dish, as well as offering another layer of flavor. Not a crazy amount of flavor comes from squidding, but just that little bit extra.
So it's more aesthetics.
Yes. So we're gonna get that into the middle there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start slowly mixing in it. You can do this on a tabletop. A large bowl also works. Stand mixer is great, but nothing is better than getting dough into your hands and working it for real. That's the whole point of us. Cooking and doing what we love is finding those certain things that bring us joy. So
right.
This here is just a start to that. So
you've done this thousands of times. You make it look easy, but Can the average Joe Blow just follow a recipe? I know I've made it from a Jamie Oliver cookbook for like
You just have to follow the steps, you know. I think
Right.
that, you know, and practice, you know, like there's going to be times that you know, mess up and it doesn't turn out, but you know what? Just do it again next time and learn from your mistakes, and
Shit happens.
it happens, yeah. So I can tell right now that my pasta is going to be a little bit on the drier side. So I'm just going to add just a splash of water, maybe a tablespoon or so.
that's where the experience comes in right there.
So as it's coming together, you know, it's forming more of a paste or a mud, and you'll see it start to kind of really come together as it takes shape.
So who was one of your favorite chefs that you looked up to, that you studied a lot when you were starting out?
You know, I think that's there's a lot of chefs. I mean, the world is a diverse place. You know, I worked under a lot of great chefs here in Ontario and in Canada. But you know, I can't say without having experience. You know, going through a lot of Thomas Keller's cookbooks and you know, seeing what he's done for North America and how amazing it is, and he's really done a great job. So, which is awesome.
Nice.
You know, locally in Canada, you know, I worked for Massimo Capra years ago. You know, 20 plus years ago, and you know, he really, you know, today he's left a really solid mark on my career.
What was it like to work with him? I mean, we see him on TV. What was it like, the real person?
It's exactly how you see it.
Right.
You know, he's that person, which is, you know, which is really cool to see, you know, and you know, who he is on, you know, on social media and you know, on TV and stuff like that. It's just, you know, great to see somebody that's so committed to being themselves and to food and the authenticity of just being a great chef.
Right. Because he's a bold personality.
Yeah. So now this is all starting to come together. Now it just, you know, it takes time, you know, obviously in a stand mixer, this is going to happen a lot quicker, and in the restaurant industry, in the food service world, we need to be a little quicker with these things. But you know, like sometimes we don't have those tools at home, so you know, we just work with what we got, and so this is where it gets really nice to kind of start to come together as a.
It's when you sculpt the guns, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now that this is forming a nice bowl, I'm going to set this guy to the side. Got our sauce working there nice. And then I'm just going to keep working this. And then this does take time, you know, like you got to keep at it for a while. You want to get all the gluten formed really nicely in the dough. You want to be able to have that nice amount of you know, absorption in the semolina as well as into the flour. So that just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but you know, after this, we'll let this dough rest for probably, you know, half hour, 45 minutes. Ideally, the bare minimum. Usually, if we're going to be making pasta here, it'll be the first thing we make. Mm-hmm. The dough will be the first thing we make in the morning, and then by the time afternoon rolls around, it's rested enough to kind of do what it needs to do.
Is more better?
More is better, but there's also too much.
Right.
So, you know, you want to have that fine line of fresh pasta, but, you know, you don't want to be making, you know, yesterday's pasta today. So what we'll do now is I'll just set this to the side. We'll let this rest. It bounces back nicely, and we'll get to our next steps. So next step, we're going to pull that lobster out so that we can get it into our filling.
Sitting in that beautiful butter bath. Oh, get a good shot of that carrot.
It smells delicious.
Looks amazing.
So the nice thing now is our butter has been infused with a little bit more of the lobster flavor. It can sit there nicely with the garlic and thyme in there and let it do its thing. So that when we go to put our other lobster in there afterwards, it'll be ready to go. So next we're going to start on the filling. So for the filling, we're going to take just a little bit again of some shallots and some garlic. And some oil. So in the pan, a little bit of oil, our shallots, garlic.
And that's Ontario garlic, of course, right
Yeah,
there.
of course, and then you got Ontario shallots. So let that do its thing. Again, we're going to just sweat it out. We're not going to add any color to it. We can get a little bit of salt in there now, help pull everything out, moisture, and then we can start on the next little bit of the filling here. We have some ricotta, then we have some Pecorino Romano here as well. That's coming from Red Dragon Dairy out in Salford. So we're just gonna grate some of this up and get that in there. About that much.
Looks like a handful.
You use your judgment. If you want more, add more. If you want less, add less. Again, we're going to sweat this out. We want those complementary flavors in here as well, so we're going to hit this with a little bit of wine. Again, we're cooking that alcohol up, concentrating those flavors. That's about where I want it to. So we're going to get that in there with all that stuff. Set that pan to the side for now. We do have the nice thing about restaurants is we have some things on hand. So we're going to throw just some herb mix in here of parsley, tarragon, and chives. That's kind of a staple in the restaurant to utilize. This.
I always find tarragon's a great one with lobster too.
Oh, yeah.
With seafood.
So wonderful. So, and then we're just going to give this fine chop here. Again, like you have, if you have the tools, a food processor, you can give this a quick blitz, and then just run it through that way with everything. By hand is perfectly acceptable. Typically, because we're doing larger batch items in restaurants, we are utilizing those tools just to make sure that we can get what we need sorted out.
Wait, just let me. Oh. Yeah, that's good. We can go ahead with that.
So once you have that kind of minced up nice and fine, what we're going to do is just take that in there. Mix that all together. We should be good to go. Up after ourselves. Good to go. So.
You could just hand me a fork right now and I'd get right into that.
So we do need to season these things. It doesn't season itself. So a little bit of salt, and with most white white meats and seafood, we use white pepper. It just, it doesn't overpower it. It gives a nice complementary flavor to it, and good to go from there. So nice mix, smells great.
Looks pretty.
Looks pretty, yep. And then we can kind of reserve this for later to go with our pasta. So sauce, I think we got our filling made, we got our pasta made, we got our butter poaching liquid on, we have our sauce being made. Our next step is essentially the pasta. So ideally with the pasta, we're going to roll it out, we're going to stuff our tortellinis, but then we don't want to serve our tortellinis right away. We want to give them a couple hours because when you pinch your edges, when you pull everything together, you want to let it sit. You want to let it kind of dry out a little bit. So that's going to bring everything together. That's going to get those flavors in there well, but it's going to give that pasta the time to sit and really take shape. So
Let it get hot.
yeah. So onwards to pasta rolling. So our pasta has rested now for a good amount of time. It's really nice and pliable. We're able to work with it fairly easily, which is great. Not too wet by any means, but we're going to give it a little bit of love. It's going to take a few times to get it where we need to. You want to roll it out enough that it's going to get into our pasta machine fairly evenly. We don't want to work the machine too hard. That's how they break down easily. We want to give it a good amount of respect. You can see I'm just trying to do it as evenly as possible, so flipping it over, rolling it towards me every time, kind of bringing it together so that we can get it to the shape we need. Last time on this side, we should be good to go. Almost want to taper your last edge just a little bit so it's just a little thin going into your machine. And then we're going to start the process of rolling up the pasta. So see, you can kind of tug on it a little bit. It's coming through there. It is giving a little bit of a hard time on the end there, which does happen. That also does happen. If it is giving you some effort or some grief like it is here, you can always just trim it out. And ideally you don't want that to happen, but first time through is always the most difficult. After then, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. They're gonna go much different the second time around. As it gets thinner, it's going to get a little trickier to deal with. It's going to get a little stickier. But we're just going to keep the motion going. You see I'm folding it over every time. The other thing I'm doing to try to do the most of is I'm using the back of my hands. I'm not holding it like this with my fingers. It's highly important as you don't want to put your fingers through the dough as you're rolling it out. So we're almost all the way to the end here with our pasta dough and rolling it out, but that's not even enough for me. So what I do is I start over again. Come back, fold everything over itself nicely. Give it a light dusting now. And now we're going to set it back to 0 and start over again.
What's the benefit of doing it double?
It just evens everything out nicely. You're able to kind of work it a little bit nicer, and then ideally you want to maximize the pasta coming to the edges of the machine.
Okay.
And you don't always get that first round. And also, when you first shape it, it's usually kind of tapered here and at the end, which, you know, if you're making raviolis or tortellinis, you know, you can cut one out of the top, but I always find it's a little nicer to try and get it as square as possible. You can also, if you find that it's like bunching up again on you, you can give it a little pull. Pull it just a little bit, and that pulls out those sides.
Can you use a rolling pin? You don't have one of these handy dandy machines at home?
You can, a dowel, a pasta dowel,
Okay.
is something that a lot of artisanal pasta makers do utilize. So if that's a route you want to go, it's definitely an option. It just takes again, just like making the pasta dough, it takes a little bit more work.
All right.
So as you see, we're getting near the end here. It's coming out really nicely, nice and smooth. To our second last one here, so we'll see it's starting to get real nice. Try not to let it get too bunched up underneath, because then it's going to start to stick together and create folded creases that you might not want. And then we're going to do our last run through now. So it does get fairly long by the time you're done from when we started working it, and that was just that little ball. So now look at the yield we're getting out of it. If it gets a little too hard to work with for you, you can always cut it in half. It's not a problem. But you do want to make sure you have a good size working area to kind of work off of. Pretty much ready to go. All we're going to do now, while we let it kind of rest, is we're going to dust it just ever so lightly.
What does the extra dusting do there?
Well, for now, it's going to just prevent it from sticking to each other, because we're going to just kind of hold it. We want to let it rest just a little bit here while we're kind of getting ready for the next stages and cleaning down after ourselves. When we're cutting it out, it's going to, if we cut it right now this second, the gluten in it is going to, you'd notice that you'd cut it out and then your pasta would shrink a little bit.
Okay.
Because the gluten hadn't had time to rest. So we do want to kind of give it that option of resting just a little bit, make sure all our sides are floured nicely. See if it's missing a spot, then just give it a once over there. And then we'll let it rest for just a minute here, making sure it's all good to go before we start cutting it out. That's it. And you could take a damp towel and put it over top. You could take care of a couple other things in the meantime while you're getting everything else ready. Get your pot of water on, do some dishes, get that going so that you're good to go here. So we're going to grab our filling. We're going to start cutting these guys out, and we should be good to go.
You got hot water.
So we're gonna get going on cutting this pasta out. I'm going to just lightly, again, flour the table just so that when we're cutting it, it doesn't stick to the table as much as we think it's going to. And all we're going to do is take a nice size ring cutter here and start cutting out rounds. So these here, that's all wastes. These are the good guys here. What we do is this is a kitchen snack. So while we're making this, we can throw all these scraps down at the very end, and then everybody has a nice little afternoon pasta scrap snack. We'll just cut a few out so we can show you what we're looking for. Discard this, and we're going to save this for a little bit later for something. And then I'm just going to grab some tray. So now we have our pasta ready to go. We have our filling ready to go here. And essentially, if we're doing a large amount of these, what we'd want to do is we'd want to keep a damp towel again over top of them, because as they're sitting here now, they're going to start to dry out and not be able to pinch together as nicely as we want to. So you can start with one, or you can start with a couple. Usually what we do is we'll take an amount of filling there. Get it in each one nicely. Then we're going to fold it over to the top and just pinch it. We're going to go all the way around, pinch it nice and tight, because right now that's double thickness. What we want to do is pinch it down in a single thickness, so it's the same thickness of pasta all the way through. Typically what we'll do is we'll throw a little bit of semolina pasta flour down. I'm just going to use regular flour now beforehand, and we're going to just put a divot in there. Close those guys up. Again, pinch it so it's to single thickness there again. Give them a little pinch in the middle, and then you have a nice little tortellini. And some water boiling. Again, we're going to fold this over, pinch it, single thickness, going over to the other side, flip it over, pinch it, single thickness, go back over it, make sure it's all where it needs to be. Take it in the middle, push it in the middle, and close it forward.
Okay, I gotta try one.
Of course. Usually if there's multiple of us making tortellinis, there'll be a tortellini race to see who can make the most tortellinis the quickest.
Everybody's a winner.
Yeah. the sooner you're done is the faster you do it, the sooner you're done. But the trick is to make sure that they all look great in that time.
So how many of these do you have to crank out on a busy night?
Oh man, too many. Josh makes all our pasta right now.
Right.
Here at 639, and he's been doing it for so long now. He's been with us for about 10 years. He's a rock star at making pasta.
So yeah, together then,
Yep.
squeeze.
Yep, pretty close. That'd be a fail, but but that's okay. It's your first one.
I'll eat this one.
That's okay. So yeah, again, we're gonna pinch it like a taco,
Yeah.
all the way over. You had the right.
I had it up till there.
Yeah, that's a good one. So these if you just fold them in half like that, like this, you could serve those as an angelotti.
Right.
So that's an easy angelotti right there. But we want to take it a step further, obviously, and that's why we're doing the tortellinis. So the important thing about making that tortellini, though, and getting that nice shape, is pushing it in there, and then you want to kind of fold up there and fold there, and then pinch there, and then you can push it down, and then they have more of a nice little cup, little bum shape in there. So try for another.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Gotta redeem myself now.
That one's for you.
All right.
So we got it to there.
Okay.
And then you're going to take it, you're going to push it in with your finger like that.
Yeah.
And then if you almost flip up the one side,
Yeah.
and then take that side around the other, and you're folding it in like that. Pinch to a single there. Yep.
Oh.
Great.
I don't have quite the bum you do, but
Hired.
there, we'll keep my two separate over here.
Yeah. We'll do a couple more here just to get these ones that we had cut up done. This is the nice thing about cooking in general and being a chef and really serving really quality food, because looking at these things, looking how well they're put together, the quality ingredients that are going into them, the local people that we deal with to make all the ingredients taste good is just why we do it. It's making those customers happy. And right now here at 639 we have Sam at the helm in the kitchen, running service every night. Putting menus together. Him and I have been working on this for quite a while now, which is amazing. He's enabled us to really push forward in other avenues, and so with my wife Jen and Sam and the kitchen team and the front house team, we were really lucky to be able to continue serving Oxford County really fantastic food and a really unique dining experience.
It's about building a solid team.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. We wouldn't be able to do it without anybody. So we're really lucky to kind of keep pushing that forward and build those relationships and work together. And it's just I couldn't ask for anything better.
This might be a good time to tell everybody about the Feast On.
Yeah. So 639 is the only Feast On certified restaurant in Oxford County. Feast On certified is a government program that audits restaurants to be able to verify that they're using local. So working with our suppliers, they audit us to what percentage of local we're using, and then certified that way. Now it's been great being part of the team, the Feast On program. It kind of verifies things. They have a lot of other initiatives to kind of bring guests to your door that are like-minded. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of local washing that happens where people say they're using local, but matter of fact is that they're not, and they're just trying to get on that train. It's like the people that we really need to support are the farmers and the producers, because they're the ones that are gonna give give a really unique taste of place.
You're just keeping money in the community.
Oh, 100%. So there we go. We got a decent amount of tortellinis good to go here. This would be enough for a couple orders on a Saturday night, and we'd run out with this little amount, but that's a good start for us. So now that these are kind of set to go, we'll let them rest for a little bit. Like I said, dry out a little bit, kind of have everything come together, so that when we do put them into to a pot of water, that they're not coming apart. We want them that seal to really hold nicely. So we'll give this a few minutes. In that time, we're going to take care of a couple other things to get set up. So next steps, we're just going to take our sauce that we made earlier. It's been reduced down a decent amount. You'll see here. So it's nice and just coating the back of the spoon. But we don't want all that other stuff in it because we want a nice, smooth, velvety sauce. So we're just going to take it and strain out all those shallots and the garlic and the thyme, so that all we're left with is a nice, tasty sauce.
Now I know you can't smell that, but wow, does that pack a great smell.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of intense flavor. So we don't need we don't need lots of sauce. We just need the right amount of sauce to complement the dish. That's why with reducing those flavors and really concentrating everything down is an important part of the process. So our sauce is ready to go here. Our butter I have turned on, ready to go. Our water is boiling. I'm going to take actually a little bit of puree we make here. It's a parsnip puree to kind of complement everything nicely.
Parsnip puree.
Parsnip puree, yeah. So all we're going to do is just gently warm that on the stove. Now that our butter's right where we need it, we're going to get these guys in here and gently let them do their thing for the next couple minutes.
I didn't eat breakfast either.
Perfect. So that's heating up. Our sauce is warm and good to go. Puree coming along nicely. Also just going to start with the pasta. We can start getting that into water as well. Stir, make sure they're not sticking to the bottom. Fresh pasta does cook fairly quick, which is amazing. Good to go there on that. Our lobsters poaching nicely, should be ready all pretty much at the same time. I want to come to the plate with everything nice and hot, ready to go.
I think we should add more butter.
That's what's going to happen.
I'm going to go hit up the gym after this, so...
So what we're going to do here is, for our actual tortellinis, we're going to create a little bit of a glaze, a little bit of butter, a little bit of white wine.
Did you get a shot of these lobsters getting all happy here?
These guys are doing their thing. close to being there. We don't want to go too hard though. See if it's bubbling too much.
So what are you looking for on the lobster tails?
I'm looking for nice white meat all the way through, nice and tender. You don't want to see any clarity on any translucent meat. That means it's undercooked. So essentially, that fine line between being overcooked and undercooked. But the nice thing is the lower and slower you go, the better results you're going to get.
So there's no such thing as a rare lobster tail.
No, absolutely not. So it looks like our pasta is floating nicely. Once it's it's typically done. I'm just going to give it another second or so in there, just to make sure. But everything looks really nice. We're going to pull these guys out. Color is really cool. Just something a little different. Yeah. Now that sauce that we created there, with just a little bit of that sugar, the salt, the white wine, and butter, what we want to do now is and there's a little bit of the water there that was with the pasta. You'll see the sauce starting to just come together now, just glaze nicely, and be kind of emulsified together really well. So that's pretty much it. You want to turn off the heat, and those are awfully tasty and good to go.
Now, when you're sitting at the chef's table, this is my favorite part. When you're almost near the end of the meal, you see it all, and then you see it all plated. By far, my favorite time sitting at the chef's table. All come together.
Lots of fun. You ask lots of questions. Everybody's used to having staff in the kitchen, or having customers in the kitchen, so we're used to it. I'm just going to finish this with just a little bit of those soft herbs again.
It is truly dinner and a show watching these guys work.
Our sauce is looking awfully tasty, but I just want to finish it off with a little bit extra butter. Soften everything up nicely.
Another 20 minutes of cardio.
But coming out for a dinner at 6:39, it's we do use quality ingredients, but we make everything here, so it's really is a great experience for everybody. So these lobster tails are looking like they're done, so I'm going to start pulling them out.
Oh, look at those bad boys.
Set those to the side there. I'm going to pull down a plate. Nice and ready to go.
Did I mention it smells absolutely amazing in here yet?
We're just going to garnish it with a few other tasty treats to bring it all together.
What do we got there, Eric?
We got a little bit of trout caviar here, Northern Ontario. Have some parsnip chips here for a little bit of added texture. Just garnish with a few of the nicer leaves of some sorrel and some pea shoots.
You eat with your eyes. We're gonna get a lobster, sorrel, a pea shoot. I don't know if I can do all this.
You can do it.
Sweet lobster. Sweet, sweet lobster. The parsnip puree, that comes through really well. Chef,
Yeah. Turned out okay?
turned out amazing. Lobster is one of my favorite food groups. I guess, yeah. You showed the inside of that beautiful ravioli. See that there? I love that.
Yeah,
That's a winner. Well, I want to say thank you for taking the time to show us that amazing dish, Eric.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for putting this together for us and really being able to showcase, some of the tasty things that we do here.
Right.